Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the morning tip-off with Imman, brought to you by Basketball News. I've got my good friend Dakota here this morning. Dakota, how are you?
I'm not used to being up this early, but it's the morning tip-off with Imman. So if you ask me to come on, I'm going to wake up much earlier than I'm used to to talk basketball.
Honestly, thank you so much. It's so funny, you guys. I had to message people, and I'm like, 8:00 in the morning. So sorry, but are you awake? Would you be able to do this? Good morning. All right. So thank you so much for joining me this morning, because we're gonna talk some Milwaukee Bucks. And I figured, who else can I slander Chris Middleton with besides my good friend Dakota? I've been kidding. There's not going to be.
No, we shouldn't be slander Chris Middleton.
There's no Chris Middleton slander today. There won't be any Chris Middleton slander today.
All right, it's way too early for me to be upset.
Oh no, we're not doing it. He hasn't deserved it yet. We'll wait till May.
Yes.
We'll save it. We'll save it for May. I'm kidding. But no, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
She's not. This is dimes for all the Chris Middleton slander.
And Eric Bledsoe slander, although, he looked hot against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Don't remind me of that. He's shooting 40% from three now? 40%. He just has to do that when he leaves the Bucks, of course.
We'll get into all of that in just a little bit. I did want to start off this morning just talking about, I wanted to get into the news and notes in the NBA, but forget that. I don't know. Nuggets, Pistons suspended because COVID stuff. But which is actually, it's been a long time since that's happened. I did want to, before we really get into all of this, I'm sorry, you guys, I went to bed at I always go to bed late. I don't know why I'm making excuses. But yesterday, there was a Clubhouse meeting. So a Clubhouse meeting with Basketball News. And I wanted to plug that real quick because it was a lot of fun. So if any of you guys are on Clubhouse, I really recommend joining, listening in. We had a great conversation. We were talking, it was a watch party. So I was watching a lot of Lakers Hawks in it. But we were also having a conversation about NBA media. We were talking about how difficult it is to break into NBA media, the struggles that certain demographics, specifically women, specifically Black women, face in NBA media or sports media in general. And we also got into the conversation of inside the NBA on TNT and what that broadcast looks like, and if that form of media is what diehard fans are looking for, or is it just specifically for casual fans, and should we just ignore that entirely as a diehard fan base and just take it for what it is, entertainment, instead of an actual source to get your information from. And it's a lot of fun being in those rooms and hearing everybody's perspective. And we actually had a producer of Inside the NBA on TNT show up and actually talk to us about that entire process and the prep work that goes in for guys like Chuck and Shaq, and what happens behind the scenes when the Donovan Mitchell interview happens and things like that. So it's really, really fun. So I do recommend people just hopping in, joining in. You never know who's going to stop by and some of the conversations that you're going to have there. So, Dakota, how do you feel about Inside the NBA on TNT? What's your takes on Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, and the boys?
I have a lot of opinions on Shaq and how he doesn't seem to really care about basketball. My point of view is Shaq is using Inside the NBA as another way for him to be on TV and have his face be seen. He is on American television. He is on so many commercials. He's talking with cartoon generals. He's talking to cartoon tigers, pizza, rain lights, all of it. So I feel like he's using it as more of a medium for him to be on television and to grow the game of basketball. And I feel like that's apparent from how he doesn't know who Christian Wood is, even though Christian Wood is having an all-star caliber season, disrespecting Donovan Mitchell, Nikola Jokic. inside the NBA is like the premier NBA show, and to have somebody like Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Famer, one of the best centers in the history of basketball, to disrespect the game, just in my personal opinion, doesn't do anything to grow the game and make introduce casual fans to these younger talented players.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a difference between the entertainment value. Like, I know how a lot of people don't like the name that player thing. I find it sometimes funny. And the producer was talking about, his name is Keith. He was speaking about how they purposely only do that at the start of the season. They pick specific guys that have maybe played on multiple teams in recent years, just to throw him off, and only do it at the start, and that it wouldn't be a segment that would work this late in the season because Chuck would be watching basketball and know who these guys are. So there is that as well. But I completely agree. I think that there's a line between entertainment and just maybe piling on the league, which, I mean, if you're just telling me how everyone sucks right now, the league's just not as good and it's so soft, why, how, as a casual fan, how am I going to want to watch this product when the people trying to sell me on it are disparaging it the entire time? So that's kind of the disconnect that I have with it. But at the same time, I recognize that Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, and Ernie are there for entertainment purposes. They're not there to teach people the X's and O's. If people are looking for that information, there's so many great resources online. And it's unfortunate that I have to say online that we're not getting that necessarily on the main stage. But there is so much of that happens on here that people do have access to the information that they're wanting.
Yeah, most definitely. And if I'm gonna plug a
plug away.
Plug the site, basketballnews.com. There's a both a podcast, Dunker Spots. I don't even work for Basketball News, so I'm plugging you guys anyway.
You plug it better than I do. Sorry, Nakai's.
Dunker Spot, Steve Jones, Nakai's Duncan. Also, if you want to read some good X's and O's writing, Nakai's Duncan has got you there. NBA, WNBA, he's got it. So I don't even work for Basketball News.
I can't wait to have him on, wake him up early in the morning so we can discuss some Candace Parker.
Yeah, but Basketball News. I don't even work there, but I still am a big fan of what everybody does there. So yeah.
Well,
also Zach Lowe too. You can never go wrong with Zach Lowe at ESPN.
You can't. But they put that stuff behind a paywall.
Yeah.
To make it more inaccessible, because why not? Okay, so let's just pivot away from the talk, and let's get into the games that happened last night. There were some good ones. I'm sure you're feeling a lot better because when I initially asked you to be on the show, we were talking right after the weekend. That was a tough weekend for Bucks fans. If you guys, I can't even imagine the last time Bucks fans had two just stinkers.
Yeah.
Back to back. Should have been a third one. Raptors, how did you lose that? But now things are looking a little bit up. We'll get to that Bucks game a little bit. But first I want to start off with the Lakers-Hawks game. I don't know if you caught any of that. Did you catch any of that? It's okay if you didn't, because
I was focused on one game, but I do have the box score ahead of me, so I feel like it may be helpful for the discussion.
Yeah, no, for sure. And here's the thing: Lakers-Hawks. Lakers are just the better team. I was watching that. There was no point in the entire game where I thought, even though it was close in the first half, there's no point in the entire game where I just worried that the Lakers weren't going to pull it out in the end. I think the biggest takeaway from this game is a spat that LeBron James had with a guy who was sitting courtside. Stop. Why are people sitting courtside? Just don't have these people in the building. It's not hard to just be no, fans aren't allowed here. But he had this spat with LeBron, and then his wife jumped in and they got on Instagram and it turned into this whole big thing. There's apparently now an investigation into what happened. Although LeBron did have some comments about not thinking that they should have been kicked out. It was just an exchange of words. But the fan did take off their mask in order to shout at LeBron James, and that's a big no-no right now because there is a virus going on. LeBron said, I was far enough away that it didn't affect me, but I guess there were other people close to him and there were refs that were close to them. And so, you know what? I hope that they're okay. But he didn't think it should have been this bad that that the fans would have gotten kicked out, but that's where we're at. And as the internet is wont to do, they have investigated this very thoroughly and have found pictures from 2017 on this gentleman's Instagram account where he is clearly not a fan of LeBron James. A photo of him, the Hawks and the Cavs were playing a game, and he snapped a photo of LeBron James as he's sitting courtside and was just like, can you tell that I don't like this guy? And he has another one where he accuses LeBron of almost sitting on his wallet and watch or something, I don't know. But he clearly has held this grudge against LeBron James for a long time and had a chance to have this war of words. His wife is claiming that LeBron started it, which, why? I don't understand
his apparently much younger wife.
Yeah, who I'm so sorry, but refunds on some of those surgeries. But his wife is much younger. Very upset and very adamant that LeBron James started this feud when it's like, first of all, your husband has posts dating back to 2017 about how much he dislikes LeBron James. LeBron James doesn't know your husband. He's not going to initiate this fight in the middle of a game. So, I have a hard time believing her account of the story, but, who cares, right?
Yeah. This is just, first off, I also am upset about why there are fans sitting courtside at a game when we're in the midst of the pandemic, and, I have my doubts on whether, obviously those folks are on the richer side and they would have, better access to the vaccine, but I'm not positive that they, were vaccinated, and obviously the players aren't. So during the midst of a pandemic where so few of the population in the United States have been vaccinated, I am upset about fans being courtside in general. That's the biggest thing to me. And I don't know if you saw the video, but the woman and I think the guy too were talking about how COVID was nonsense and how people shouldn't be wearing masks in general, and obviously
I'm not surprised
that those words were seen by their actions of her, having her mask down by her.
How deluded do you have to be to live in this world that we're living in? They're literally in Atlanta. They're in Georgia right now. And I've talked about it on this show, how overrun they are with COVID right now. How deluded you have to be to just completely ignore all of that for this false narrative in your head. I don't get it.
Me neither.
That's where we're at. Speaking of other NBA feuds, talked about this yesterday. We had the Rodney Magruder, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green little spat, if you will. Like I said on yesterday's show, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of disparaging guys who are in the league. I don't like it when Shaq does it. I don't like it when Chuck does it, and I don't completely understand it when active players do it either. I think that it's, I don't know. And we talked about this yesterday about how whenever Shaq does it to JaVale, it's a whole issue, and all the Warriors have such a big deal with it. But you can do it to Rodney Magruder. I don't get it. But Glenn Big Baby Davis got in the mix. So did Kendrick Perkins. So 08 Celtics coming through. And he said, saying shit like that, I see why he stays hurt, karma. So he called it karma for Klay Thompson. We're getting into drama. We're in juicy drama. Is this DMZ, you guys? I don't know. But yeah, so that's what Glenn Big Baby Davis had to say. And then Klay responded with, dang, Big Baby, this what we on now? I can't wait till I see you on the court next year. I'm calling ISO every time. Probably get 40 and a quarter with big fella chasing me.
First off, I feel like Klay might be sticking it to Glenn for not being in the NBA.
Yep, that's 100% what it is.
Yes, and also, Perk knows how to stay viral. Like he knows what to say to have his name be talked about on social media. So I feel like he's smart in that way of like I feel like debate shows and on ESPN that's all theater to me.
Yeah.
So in terms of theater, the theater of sports debate shows, Kendrick Perkins is one of the best. So, more power to him.
I
But
thought he
yeah,
was right in his statements. Like I thought that like Glenn Big Baby took it far, right? And
yeah,
Clay
yeah.
responded with a dig, and then Glenn responded with saying, "You're right about giving me 40, but you can't check me either. Barbecue chicken on the block. I bet my life on that." Sure. But also I would do it just to watch ISO Clay for an entire game. Like, let's get this. Like film it. I don't know how we're supposed to do this right now, but I feel like Clay on
Or
like
or Glenn just try to stay with Clay when he's running around screens.
I feel like Clay right now is injured, but I would trust that Glenn wouldn't be able to keep up with him. So you
Even
know what?
though, like,
I
Clay
think
can
we should
walk,
film it.
so I feel like Clay might have an advantage. Just on being able
I
to walk on his
don't
2 feet.
disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. All right, but you know what? Let's leave this NBA beef away.
Yeah.
Toss it aside. Let's talk some more about some of these games that happened yesterday.
About this beef, Rodney Magruder obviously isn't an all-star caliber player, and what as Clay is, but obviously Magruder has found a way to stick in the NBA for a few years now,
Yeah,
and
5 years.
for the amount of players that are grinding in the G League just to have the opportunity and the talent that's in the G League of players that are fighting for that opportunity, the fact that Ronnie has been able to stick in the NBA for this is his 5th season is great, and it's a testament of how he is both as a player and the off the court presence that has pushed the Clippers and the Pistons to keep on signing him in
Yeah.
recent years.
No, for sure, and that's very well put. Which is why I didn't care for Clay's comments. I don't understand the need to say things like that. But
I agree.
All's well put. So some of the other games that happened, we're running short on time. Okay, guys, the Heat keep losing. It's fine because the Raptors keep losing. So anytime they're losing, I'm just like, you know what? Not alone here. Not alone here. But that one is wild to me just because I was checking in a little bit towards the end of the game because I knew I wanted to talk about them, maybe catch more of the game. They were up like 10 with 3 minutes to go. Then they lose in OT by 8. So that technically means they were outscored by 18 in the last 8 minutes of the game. That's not good. That's my take. And it closed out with Malik Monk just had a fantastic game. He hit the game tying 3 to push that into overtime. But then the Heat close on like an ISO Jimmy for the win, which as someone who's a Raptors fan, and I've talked a lot about Jimmy hitting some incredible shots against the Raptors in his time in Chicago. And we saw it in the playoffs. Jimmy can definitely step up, but he's just sort of coming back. You know what I mean? From this long stay, he looks very different. I don't know that that's the one. I don't know that that's how you close if you're the Miami Heat. It just doesn't seem like a winning play. Of course it wasn't. And then they didn't have it in them in OT to finish that off.
Yeah. Charlotte is a very interesting team to me. Obviously, LaMelo Ball has been
his first start,
and when he was on the bench, he's been great, and he showed that against the Bucks, and I'm still having nightmares about that game. But
Ball brothers are giving you nightmares right now. Is it both of them?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, Charlotte is.
Pivot over to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, let's get over to the Milwaukee Bucks and talk about some positives from yesterday.
Yeah, they had their big win. What's up with what should we touch on anything else? Like, here's the thing. They had a good game. they came out and did what they were supposed to do against the Portland Trailblazers. Is that more of what you expected from Milwaukee coming into the season this year, as opposed to maybe what we saw over the weekend?
You should never expect a team to shoot 50% from three like the Bucks did last night.
Why not?
But yeah, they got hot. They stayed hot, and it looked amazing. But the Bucks are trying some new things on the defensive end in terms of not playing a lot of drop coverage, staying on the perimeter, and it worked well yesterday. Obviously, Damian Lillard didn't have the kind of game that you expect Damian Lillard to have against a team that lets guys shoot from deep. Robert Covington struggled as well. He's a really good 3-point shooter. So I'm happy with the performance that the Bucks had on the defense end last night. And I just want to see how they're gonna perform in future games because obviously Portland has one of the best scorers in Damian Lillard, but they're weakened right now with no Nurkic and no CJ McCollum. So I'm happy about last night, but I'm just waiting for future games to see how this new Bucks defense in terms of prioritizing defending the perimeter is going to be working out.
Yeah, and I think you put it really well there, because coming into this year, I think if we're looking at, okay, let's focus on last season a little bit. Bucks best defense, right? And that's their calling card. That's been their calling card. Same thing, you can look at like the Dallas Mavericks best offense. Like that was what we kind of expected from them, this potent offense. They come in, they're struggling this year with their offensive rating. Granted, they've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. They finally got their full rotation yesterday. Our starters finally back yesterday. So they've been struggling with that. But like, the drop-off is something that's pretty extreme. They haven't been able to buy a bucket. And on the other end, the Milwaukee Bucks have been on the wrong end of teams not being able to miss quite a bit. And their defensive rating has gone from best in the league to now middle of the pack. I think they're ranked 15 currently.
Yeah, they're 15th after last night.
And like the Raptors are 16th right now. And I know that like over here in Raptors land, we're like just about this defense right now, so I can't imagine what it's like for a Bucks fan. And I get that they have different pieces coming in. They made certain changes over the offseason, and you talked about their different defensive schemes, but Bucks defense is going to be their calling card in the playoffs. Yeah. No, like that's what you want to have in the second half of the season to start gelling. And what do you think that's going to look like?
I don't know, like, in terms of talent, the Bucks have talent, and also Jrue Holiday has been, great so far this year with the Bucks. I feel like he's just starting to get comfortable with the team, which isn't surprising given the, lack of training camp, lack of preseason that is probably affected a lot of teams, especially Toronto. Your guys also, being in Tampa and all that. But in terms of their defense going forward, I know it's not the best thing to say on a show where takes matter, but I'm gonna take a wait and see approach with these guys. I'm gonna take a wait and see approach because
I think that's like the proper way to do it. I think that's what rational, sane human beings would do. Whereas I'm fire sailing and freaking out and needing like weekly therapy sessions on here.
Listen, I'm like that too, but Budenholzer has made an adjustment, so I'm gonna wait. The main reason why I've been upset at Budenholzer is the fact that I feel like he's been stubborn with his rotations, with the way he sets the defense and pushes teams to shoot a lot of threes. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach with this because things have changed and I want to see the effects of those changes.
I think that's very fair. Let's pivot the conversation over to Giannis. Because the one thing, if you had told me to name your three, who's going to be leading or who's going to be the three top MVP candidates a quarter of the way into the season, I would have just without even thinking, put Giannis in that group. And because he's just consistently been there, unanimous MVPs. I guess he wasn't a unanimous MVP last year, but he's consistently been there and won back-to-back MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year. And I guess I didn't foresee a defensive drop-off. I didn't foresee this sort of struggle from the Bucks heading into the season. But what has it been like for Giannis watching? As someone who's observing from the outside here, what can you tell us about Giannis' season? Because he isn't in the MVP category. It's not saying that he's having a bad season, but he's just not the Giannis that we've grown to love over the last 2 years.
I feel like a lot of the lack of love for Giannis as an MVP comes both with the fact that the Bucks have been
struggling, not
slightly above 500 so far this year, and also the Bucks mediocre defense, because when you look at stats, he's averaging 27, 11, and 6 assists. He's having
has dipped. What is that about?
Okay, here's the thing. Again, I'm gonna plug the Kyle Duncan yet again on the latest Dunker spot. He mentioned how he's tired of Giannis. This is pull-up game, and honestly, think about that more. I agree. I want Giannis to shoot less pull-ups and just keep on focusing on getting that free throw percentage back up to what it was, back in 2016-17, 2017-18, when you were 75, 76%, because that's what I'm comfortable with. And Giannis is a player that works a lot inside the paint. And when you're a big player, when you're an MVP caliber player that works a lot in the paint, you're going to get a lot of attention onto you, and you're ultimately going to be fouled a lot. And that's a pair from Giannis, averaging 9 free throw attempts per game. So I just want to see that free throw percentage go up. But while I don't want Giannis to shoot a lot of pull-ups, I want him to stay on the perimeter, because I have a secret weapon that the Bucks have that I want to see Budenholzer utilize more is Giannis as the ball handler, and have shooters like Brent Forbes, Chris Middleton, and even Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis is shooting 40% from 3. Be the screener and flare out to the perimeter, because they're always going to be open. Because Giannis, when he's driving, he's going to be double teamed
every time.
And Giannis can kick it out to Chris. He can kick it out to Brent Forbes. He can, kick it out to Portis. He can kick it out to White Dante. So I want to see the Bucks utilize Giannis more as the ball handler and, kick it out to open shooters, because, guys like Bryn, guys like Chris, when they're open, they're going to make it more times than they won't.
And do you think that, I guess, my question is, then how, doesn't a pull-up kind of help you in that scenario if guys have to trust your shot from the outside as well? I understand what you're saying, but isn't he helped a little bit by the defense kind of having to, or you just think he's just not there? The defenses are just going to completely ignore it. So if he gets comfortable and starts just taking those, it's just going to hurt the team.
I honestly disagree with you because once he starts to drive starts the process of driving, even to the free throw line, that process alone is going to capture the defense's attention. Without
a doubt. That's why I've never been a fan of Eric Bledsoe and Giannis together. I just want him to play around shooters, and I want the ball in his hands. Yeah, no, for sure. No, I'm posing questions here. I completely agree with what you're saying. It's literally been the basis of all of my Eric Bledsoe rants has just been put the ball in Giannis' hands, surround shooters. Eric Bledsoe needs ball in hands, no shooter. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
And that's basically been where I'm at. I just wanted to ask the question there because I do think, and Nikias and I were talking a little bit about it because we spoke right after the Bucks-Nets game, and I had some questions for him about how that was going to work because we did see just DJ just kind of standing in the paint, and that kind of for a large part of it forcing, I guess, I asked him if that was sustainable, if that was going to be something that we would see in a playoff series, and he's like, no, there's not going to be anything in that. They're not going to have any bodies to defend Giannis in the paint. There's just not going to exist. But he did say that what ended up happening was, and he to your point, he talked about this on the Dunker Spot, but he also said on this show here that just using, like, just Giannis we don't need to see the pull-up game from him. He could be used as a screener, which we saw multiple times in that game, and that kind of just freed up space for Chris Middleton to pull from the elbow every single time you run a pick and pop with them. And it was just an interesting conversation about how Middleton is freed up when Giannis is used as a screener, as opposed to Giannis trying to take some more outside shots.
Yeah, because Giannis,
he's shooting
28%. Yeah, Giannis is shooting 28% from three, and until he is a 40% shooter for a month or two, which I think is never going to happen, teams are just going to let him shoot. They're going to stay. You can have 5 guys just around the basket waiting for an offense, waiting to get a defensive rebound. That's what teams basically do right now against Giannis when he's pulling up from deep. So yeah, I don't think Giannis.
We're not even talking about Bucks offense right now, but I do think that it's part of why their offense is what is it it's historic right now. It's funny because the Bucks have to be historic on either the offensive end or defensive end for a season. Can't give it to anybody else. But yeah, and I do think that's part of it. And that's kind of been my biggest calling card with the Milwaukee Bucks. But it's interesting that their defense has taken such a step back. But you talked about different schemes, and that comes from but adjusting. We are at the end of our episode, but I did want to take a quick coffee break so we can talk about you, Dakota, because everyone wants to know so much about you and your lovely takes. But beyond that, can you tell people where they can find you? Our coffee break is where I kind of just want to sit back and just ask you about you, get to know you a little bit. So I'm going to put the solo cam on you. I'm going to shut up.
Boy.
And
all the attention should be on me. Everybody's going to be looking at my face. Okay.
There you go.
You can find me. My personal account is at Dakota_Schmidt. I don't write about the Bucks. We've been talking about the Bucks a lot, but I don't write about them. I write about the NBA G League, which is going to be coming back next week on February 10th. If you want to follow me at Dakota_Schmidt. I'm Ridiculous Upside at RIDIC Upside on Twitter. I promise to write about the Raptors 905 as they have a really solid team, a really good defensive-minded team, headlined by one of my favorites.
One of the first pieces that I read about Chris Boucher that introduced me to who Chris Boucher is as a basketball player came from the very Dakota Schmidt.
Oh, really? I introduced you to Chris Boucher.
It was your Chris Boucher piece last year.
Oh, now I feel good, better about myself that I introduced Chris Boucher to the great Imman. But yeah, the Raptors 905, they're gonna be really fun this year. Even if they don't have the lovable Yuta Watanabe, Gary Payton II, Nick Stauskas, a Canadian boy, is gonna be rocking and rolling with the team this year. And they also have one of my favorite rookies in Kevon Harris, Stephen F. Austin. Honestly, I feel like the Raptors should sign Utah. In my personal opinion, they should sign Utah to a standard deal, release a certain redacted player, and then bring Kevon Harris on as a two-way player. Because I really like Kevon. Look at the highlights of his game during senior season against Duke. Duke lit it up on both sides of the court. He's an awesome player, and I'm kind of upset that more people don't know about him because he's great.
Let's read Ridiculous Upside to learn about him. I'm glad that you got to plug that. I know, here's the thing, guys. I had Bucks and G League talk ready, but there was TMZ stuff to get to at the top of the show. What am I supposed to do? I know what the people want. I know what they're here for. But I hope to have you on to talk about the bubble that's happening and talk about how the Raptors 905 look and some of the other teams that are there. I want to talk a lot about the G League Ignite team. I want to talk some Amir Johnson with you. Because that's always fun.
Stay tuned for Amir Johnson.
We love us some Amir Johnson. So,
you may be seeing Dakota Schmidt connect with an Amir Johnson soon. Stay tuned.
Oh, I love that. Can't wait till we check out. Okay, you know what? Perfect. Next morning, I'm sorry, but like, can we just pencil you in? Can we write in a Sharpie actually that you will join us again to discuss Amir Johnson? Because I mean, I could talk about Amir Johnson for an hour. We don't even have to make it a half-hour show. One of my favorite Raptors of all time. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Thank you, Dakota. Please, once again, plug people where can they find your work?
Okay,
Dakota?
Personal account at Dakota DAKOTA_SCHMIDT, ridiculousupside.com, at Ridic RIDIC Upside on Twitter if you want to see some G League takes. So yeah, go there. Do all that.
Perfect. Dakota, do you watch New Girl?
I do, yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say, because Schmidt is a character.
Yes.
Just wanted to know if you watched and would understand that reference. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Peace out.